On March 1st, 1976, Charles Sobhraj was at the Tandoor restaurant in New Delhi. He had dined there the night before and apparently struck up a friendship with Madhukar Zende, the assistant commissioner of Delhi police, who had dropped in for dinner. Zende was fascinated by the charming Frenchman and invited him to dinner at his house on March. And yet, less than 2 weeks later, Zende was putting together a team of officers to catch the same Frenchman. Why? Because Zende believed Sobhraj was behind the brutal killing of a young Israeli tourist in Delhi. And this wasn't just another case for Zende. He already had a score to settle with the serial killer. How did their paths cross before this? For that, we must go back to February 1975. Sobhraj enters Bangkok, Thailand, and checks into the Grand Hotel. At the reception sits a young Canadian girl, Merry Christmas, who works as a clerk. Sobhraj flirts with her. 2 days later, she is found murdered in her apartment, stuffed in a suitcase. But the cops cannot find any solid evidence and the case goes cold. Little does Sobhraj know that he has just made an enemy for life in the form of Madhukar Zende, who was working in the Indian embassy in Bangkok then. The Bangkok police had informed their Indian counterpart about the murder, and Zende, who was interested in criminology, took it upon himself to investigate the case and put together a dossier on Sobhraj, whom he suspected to be the prime accused. When he moved to Delhi, he continued his investigations. Soon, he learns about the activities of a charming Frenchman staying at Hotel Janpath and the rumors around him being a diamond smuggler and a murderer. Zende knew he had his man. He waited for his chance. On March 1976, Zende got the break he needed. The Israeli embassy complained about the theft of a camera from their cultural attaché. And guess who was the prime suspect? None other than Sobhraj. Zende picked him up for questioning and found his flat full of stolen goods. He also found a forged Israeli passport. With enough evidence to pin him down, Zende arrested Sobhraj and sent him to Tir jail. It didn't take long for Sobhraj to figure out that he had been tricked. As he wrote in his 1998 book, My Life, My Rules, this is how I ended up in prison in India without having committed any crime on Indian soil. But what can you expect from a country which locks up anyone whose appearance gives offense? Sobhraj appealed to the French embassy to get him out, but to no avail. In jail, he held court. He charmed everyone from fellow inmates to the jail doctor and even the superintendent. The latter, Harish Chandra Nishal, was particularly impressed by Sobhraj. He visited the Frenchman in jail to probe reports that he had poisoned several inmates. When Sobhraj offered him a drink, Nishal saw a spoonful of sugar dissolve in it. Impressed by the man's confidence, Nishal decided to test him. He ordered the prisoner to make a cake, and when it was ready, he dug in. Nishal recalls, I ate a big slice and started feeling uneasy and vomited. That was my first brush with the mysterious ways of the Bikini Killer. Turns out the sugar in Sobhraj's drink was not sugar at all, but a sedative that he slipped into everyone's cup, including that of the jail officials. Yet no one questioned his every move until Zende returned to Tir one evening to find Sobhraj missing. A manhunt followed. Zende tracked the serial killer to Goa, where he was arrested once again. When news of his rearrest reached Tir, the inmates were furious and staged a riot. Zende, meanwhile, did not realize that his troubles were far from over. Upon his return to Delhi, Sobhraj sued Zende for wrongful arrest and got him transferred to Nagpur. It would be a while before their paths crossed again. One fateful day in November 1986, Zende received a call. It was from a lawyer who informed him that Sobhraj had been involved in an accident at Mumbai Central Jail and was rushed to hospital. Zende dropped everything else and boarded the next train to Mumbai. He was convinced that Sobhraj would escape from the hospital. Sure enough, when he reached the hospital, he found an empty bed and a note written by Sobhraj. He had slipped out donning a nurse's uniform. "Where are you going, Sobhraj?" shouted Zende as he drove after him. "I'm going straight back to France to my family. Have a nice day," replied Sobhraj. As he sped away, Zende never lost sight of Sobhraj, chasing him for 8 long months across India. And this was just the beginning. In the next 3 decades, Zende chased Sobhraj all over the world, from Greece to Hong Kong, from Turkey to America. Throughout, Zende harbored hopes of bringing the serial killer to justice. But as fate would have it, their paths never crossed again. Zende retired in 1996, and Sobhraj got off scot-free.